Hi all, I wanted to come to you today with another poorly lit video, but I haven't set up a lighting system yet. I just haven't had the patience to do that. I switched my spaces where I'm doing my videos now into a different room, and I don't have a lighting set up in here. I will eventually. But I've been thinking about something that's sort of been a theme of a topic that I've done a lot of sort of pondering on over the years and have done videos about in the past. But that is really food freedom. And in current events recently, depending on what part of the world you're in, there may be a lot of talk about food shortages to come. Maybe you're experiencing food shortages. And if you're in the United States, you might be hearing about different food production plants being hit by airplanes, burning to the ground. All kinds of strange things are happening in the world right now, and I wanted to talk about that for just a couple of minutes. There's this book called Food or War, a book by Julian Cribb. You can order if you're interested in the history of food and war. It's very enlightening and very fascinating. And then I just started reading this book, The Secret Life of Plants, by Peter Tompkins and Christopher Bird, that I'm also really loving and really fits into all this really interestingly and really well. And I'll just do a quick mention of those books before getting into what I really wanted to talk about, which is food freedom and the sort of flip side of that, of food slavery or food dependence. And so we're in this time where we're having these food shortage, at least fears or scares, right? And I wanted to talk about what I see in this. And this is something I've talked about before, but it's sort of coming to light in a different way. If you follow people like Vandana Shiva and are interested in her work about seeds and soil and agriculture, she wrote a book recently called Oneness and the 1%, which talks about this as well, and in particular about the topic that there are entities in our world right now, forces who really want you to believe that you are dependent on them and dependent on their products to survive. And we see this in a lot of industries. We see this in the pharmaceutical industry. We've seen this in the medical industry, where alternative forms of healing have been smashed and tried to have been disappeared, so that the mainstream form, or what they wanted to become the mainstream form, would profit and thrive, right? It's about profit. And we're seeing this now, I believe, in the food sector. So, and this is a massively huge topic, but what I wanted to talk about was our actual empowerment in this time. So what I see is that there are entities, like I said, who want you to believe, and it comes down to a belief, because if you don't believe it, it doesn't have any power over you, that you are dependent on their food to survive. So I wanted to get this out because I feel like there's a lot of fear that actually doesn't need to be there. If we sort of get back into our bodies, get back into the truth, and really be in the knowing that we are taken care of so much. But for decades, these entities have wanted to disconnect us from our bodies. They want to disconnect us from our knowing that our bodies are self-healing. There's a place for Western medical procedures and products, and for sure. But for the most part, our bodies, even when there's a place for those, it's our bodies that do their own healing, right? A procedure may eliminate some other factors that are impeding that healing, or blocking that self-healing ability that our bodies have, but it's always our bodies that do the healing themselves. And there are companies, entities, ultimately people running these that want us to be disconnected from that. They want us to think that we are dependent on their products, so that we will purchase their products, and if they can instill fear in us that, oh my gosh, if we don't have this, we will die, become ill, become unhealthy, whatever the belief is, that we really need that product, all the better for them, because that motivates us more and more to purchase their products. So in the food sector, the way I see this has been happening is that, first of all, these entities run by people want to, like I said, disconnect us from our knowing, and they want to create a belief in us that the food they create is food, is the definition of food. So without these foods, which are actually food-like products, not just foods, that without those products, we're not going to be able to survive. So there's a lot of fear around this fear, of food shortages happening, or these food production plants being destroyed. There's this, I believe there's a narrative of fear that's trying to be instilled in us, so that we will. First of all, there are things that happen to the psyche when you're in a fear mode that have to do with dependency. And they want us to be in a state of dependency, of needing these products. So they want you to be addicted to these products. They want you to think that these products are food and the only food. And they want you to be dependent on that. And they want you to spend your money on that. And they want, I think, ultimately to control the entire quote unquote food system. Because if you can control the food system, check it out in here, or the food supply, you have control. So I wanted to talk today about the actual freedom that we have. And let's talk about what's true. So what's true, we've been sold down the river, you guys, in terms of food in so many ways. But one huge way is the definition of food. And we have, as human animals, evolved with plants over time, that our bodies have specific receptors to what these plants provide for us, and create health and thriving health in our bodies. And eating is very simple. And I can tell you, because I have taken my eating down to very, very simple level, and, done raw vegan eating, not as a fad, not as a fashionable thing to do, but just really getting down to, what does my body prefer? What does my body thrive on? And I can tell you, belief after belief after belief I had about foods, going from milk, it does a body good, got milk, like all of this advertising bullshit that has been instilled into our belief systems. I have literally taken out and gone through by removing those foods from my diet and seen, oh, not only do I not need what I'm told I need, I actually thrive and heal and age backwards without those things. So really just taking off that layer of marketing, and look at who wants to profit from what you're considering buying. And then really look into the beliefs around that, and what beliefs are we being sold. The truth of it is, we don't need food-like products to survive. Kyle was telling me the other day about something like a baby food factory was, destroyed, or something happened to it. And I laughed, and you kind of looked at me, and I swear to God, I'm not a heartless person, and I care so much about babies, and I have 2 babies myself, or they used to be babies. But I laughed because people have forgotten that food is not the thing that comes in a can or a box or a jar. Babies eat food, First of all, the mother produces breast milk that is the ultimate food for your baby. No corporation, no mind can come up with a product that they can sell you that's going to be better for your baby than breast milk. Did you know that you can feed 2 babies on each breast? You can feed one baby on one the other. The composition of the breast milk will be entirely different depending on the needs of that child, depending on their age, depending on what their body needs at that time. Your body produces what the child's body needs. There's no computer program that can come up with that and create that for your child, let alone just going to a store and buying something off the shelf that was created however long ago from some kind of formula that someone with necessarily incomplete understanding created, and feed that to your baby. Now, people can survive, right? And sometimes there is a need for those kinds of products if you can't breastfeed your baby, and no blame or shame. But my point is that what our body produces is, and what our body's wisdom far surpasses any kind of scientific or medical knowledge. And people that are at the highest echelons of medicine and science will tell you that. People like Stephanie Seneff, a head researcher at MIT, someone I followed for over a decade, will just flat out tell you, we don't know how the immune system works. We don't know how the brain really works. And if you look at specific medications, you'll find that on them, they will say something like, this medication is thought to work because of this and this pathway. Don't really know. The body is so much wiser and it's just infinitely, it's infinitely, I don't know, the word magical comes to mind, but there are problems with that word. But the sophistication of the body far surpasses any kind of scientific or medical or corporate knowledge. So the fact that they would try to sell you, that corporations would try to sell you this idea that you need this packaged food is ridiculous and laughable to me. Babies eat food, babies after they're done breastfeeding eat food just like the rest of us. And food is not a product that comes in a can or a jar or a box. Food is something that grows from the ground, that nature has created, that is so much more in tune and working with our bodies than anything a corporation could come up with or create with its incomplete understanding of the human body. It just isn't possible. So it's laughable to me to think that, oh my God, this thing that we're sort of using, we're using nature, taking credit for it, adding things to it, taking things out of it, putting it in a bottle and saying, this is what you need. Without this, you won't survive, or you'll be ill, or your body will break down, or whatever, is laughable to me. Because what our bodies evolved to thrive on is the food that comes out of the earth. So anyone who's freaking out about a baby food factory being out of commission, think about what you want to feed a baby I mean, you can get a squash out of the ground. You don't have to cook it. You can blend it up, maybe mix it with a carrot. And it's so much healthier for that baby than anything that's been sitting in a jar or a can that's been pasteurized, treated, added to, taken away from. It comes out of the ground. So I think the issue is that these entities who want us to be dependent on the food system that they have created for profit, let's not forget that, we need to remember who we are, and we need to remember where we came from, and we need to remember that our bodies are these self-healing. Life is what keeps our bodies going. As soon as life is gone, decay sets in. But as soon as life is there, and as long as life is there, it organizes everything to the most minute, meticulous, beyond our small mind's understanding of anything, creates conditions that allow us to thrive. And if we can just remember that this small mind doesn't have to take care of this body, and if we can remember that our food is not what we've been sold in the grocery store, that it is even that food that's been sold in the grocery store, everything comes from photosynthesis. We do not breathe or eat, as this book starts with. We do not exist without photosynthesis. Everything relies on plants. We can most healthily live consuming plants. And it's very simple. We don't need it to have any kind of process done to it. We simply go get it and eat it. Now, I know that in our current culture and the state of things, many people aren't growing their own food and maybe don't have access to farmers markets or CSA boxes. I'm naming some things that you can do to actually procure your own food. And I'm also recognizing that some people don't have access to those. So if the best you can do is just go to the grocery store, know that those aisles you never have to enter the middle of the store. You can survive and thrive and be much healthier than 99% of the people around you by simply just going to the produce section and eating plants. It's really as simple as that. And it takes unlearning of all this conditioning that's happened, this corporate conditioning, this corporate for-profit conditioning that has happened to create a dependence on a system that profits from you forgetting that you don't need any of their BS. If you can grow your own food, I'm about to start a garden. If you can grow your own food and grow it with the intention of gratitude for that food, if you can harvest it with gratitude and humility as part of this wholeness that is life, not as a part that's separate from it as a human being, but as an expression of the life that animates everything, then, as this book will tell you, plants appear to not have a negative response that is measurable. There's so much we could talk about here, but plants absolutely have awareness of intentions, of thoughts, of how they're treated, and if you can grow, that's why I say if you can grow your own foods and grow them with love and with intention, you're going to be harvesting foods that at least don't have in scientific experiments, and I think you can feel this with your own knowing, that they're okay with being becoming a part of a different life form, rather than rotting on the ground. That's actually not a negative thing for them. So harvesting your own food that you've grown with love is probably the ultimate, and growing that without poisons and doing that in such a natural way is probably the ultimate. But next up, perhaps you can look in your area to see if there's a CSA box service, a community supported agriculture box that's local agriculture. Maybe up from that, you can order from a company that has intentions to, do good for the world. Maybe like Thrive Market might be an example of that. The closer you can get to the source of your food and really nurturing that yourself and bringing that into your life and into your body, rather than from just a corporate system that there's no care there's no acknowledgement. I'm getting a little bit farther into something else, but and my computer's about to die, so I'm going to plug it in. But I'm going to wrap this up by just really reiterating that you don't need those foods that are going to be in short supply. And in fact, when there were food shortages, I don't know, a year ago or so, I would go to the grocery store and what I ate was not in short supply. There was no shortage. There was, the canned food was gone. The bread was gone. The packaged food, because I think to a large degree, this agenda to make us dependent on this food system, food-like product system, has been successful. And there's a run on things that people think of as food, but the produce section was full. There were lots of nuts and seeds. Everything I eat was fine and there. And, obviously there's an ability to control the supply of that as far as in grocery stores. So I don't see anything wrong with, having your own seeds or growing your own vegetables. Obviously there's nothing wrong with that. That's getting to the heart of what we do as humans and our partnership with plants and our oneness really in that natural system. But I wanted to make this video to really empower anyone who's feeling scared of food shortages or, food crisis coming up. Like, really get down to the bare bones of what our body not only can survive on, but actually what it thrives on so much more than any of these packaged food products that can only be degraded from the natural source. So, in a sense, if this food system goes down, I feel like it can go in two different ways for the people. In one direction, people can think, oh my God, there's no food, and ultimately die because they're not able to get their food-like products. And the more food-like products you eat as opposed to natural foods, the unhealthier you're going to be. So those people are going to be unhealthier in the first place. Or they're going to be people that wake up to this lie of food products and the food system and their dependence on that, and really get back to growing their own food, having cooperative systems that they create with people in their area. Maybe you have an apple tree and someone else, grows almonds or celery, and you have a trading system, and people start to bust through those myths that they thought were so true about what they needed to survive. And I think I started to talk about that and didn't finish that earlier, but I have learned so many things by taking away foods that I was told I needed, or food products. My example was got milk, and found I only got healthier when I removed those food products from what I consumed. So in that other direction, people can start to dissipate all those myths and beliefs that they believed about food that were incorrect, and at the same time really start to discover that they start to, like I've discovered in my food journey, that when you start eating whole or minimally processed plants, that your body starts to heal, that it does heal, that it starts to age backwards, that all of your pain and inflammation and issues disappear. That people can start to realize that happens whether by choice or because they're sort of forced to, the other products aren't available. If those food-like products in the food-like system are not available, I think that the agenda is that then there will be ha ha ha, evil laughter, control. But I think something that maybe is not being considered by those in that system is that it also can be the opening of the prison gates and the opening of people's eyes and awareness to the fact that they never needed that system in the first place. And we can become so free and healthy and thriving and actually turn our back on the system that has made us very, very sick as a society, very unhealthy as a society. And I think that would be one of the most positive things that could happen. Not to mention that in that, it would also reconnect us through those plants that we maybe grow or get from a farmer or trade with each other, or whatever ends up happening. We're much closer to the source, that connects us back with what we've become purposefully for someone else's profit, in many cases, disconnected from the earth, from the natural plants that grow on the earth, from our oneness with them, from our positive relationship with them. We've been disconnected from all that and from the knowingness in our body of the healing that happens when we are acknowledging and participating in life affirming activities and habits, such as eating directly from the earth. So I think I'll leave it at that, and I hope that was empowering for you, and I hope you are healthy and happy and doing well.